Hi there. Welcome to the second episode of the podcast, Struggling to Find. Today's guest is Murad Kablan. He is the CEO and co-founder of Stateless, a network and cloud company based in Colorado, USA. Murad and I talked about the talent shortages that he has suffered from and the struggles that he has faced when trying to find the right people for his company. We also discussed some really interesting red flags that he has found during the hiring processes when trying to hire executives. It's a very interesting episode. Would love to hear your feedback about it and hope you enjoy. Well, hello, Murad. How are you?
Good. Hey, Ahmed. I'm doing well. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you for joining me today.
Well, I'm very happy. It's been a while since we connected, and let's do it.
It's been 5 years. I'm really genuinely excited to have this interview with you, and I'm genuinely looking forward to your responses. My first question is, typically, I ask the guests about what do they do, and what their companies do as well. You're the CEO and co-founder of Stateless, right? A cloud company, if I'm not mistaken. You're going to explain it better than me. And while we're at it, can you also let me know what's your advantage over your competitors? Why would a client choose you over another competitor?
All right. Well, I'm Murad. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the company Stateless. The company's product is a spin-off of research I developed with my PhD advisor, Eric, at the University of Colorado. My PhD was in computer science, and that was in 2012 when I started. And at that time, we saw the transformation of the cloud infrastructure, the multi-cloud, the hybrid cloud, data everywhere, and we realized that computer networks need to be changed, because computer networks traditionally developed to be as like plumbing, like you just set up the network and then you don't touch it, you don't change it. But with the cloud, everything is dynamic, everything is moving. You cannot have that. So you need a network that adapt to the cloud nature. And when we looked at that and the networking component, like the routers and the firewalls and the load balancers, they're not designed this way. So we propose a new architecture, a new technology to make cloud networking more flexible, more adaptable to what the cloud in general or the cloud infrastructure nature need. We have the patent for it, and then we decided to basically build a company, and we call it Stateless. And from there, we founded the company in 2017. We raised capital. We raised like a seed round, an A round, and then we raised a B round. And the focus was selling to network service providers, data centers, telco companies, because they are the one that in the middle of the cloud networking and cloud infrastructure, and they want to connect enterprises to the public cloud or the other data centers or other clouds. So they need such a solution. So that's our basically main target customers. We sold to them for quite some time. And then as of last year, we did a change or shifted or pivoted where we took our solution and we deployed it in the public cloud. So we no longer sell to the data center and the telco. We still have some integration work, some projects here and there we do with them, but the main product now is being shifted and is being launched in Amazon and Google Cloud and Azure to connect these different clouds to each other. These data, specifically like AI data, data transformation, data movement, and we sell directly to the enterprise. Companies like medium-sized SaaS AI companies, we sell to them. So that's in a high level, kind of what who I am, and the company Stateless that we founded. Why we're different, I think it's a couple of things. One is the culture of the company and how we are emphasizing that from the technology itself. We believe that three things that our solution is unique, and that's also our people. When we hire people, it's very simple. We focus a lot on simplicity because cloud networking is very complex, and that's one of the main issues. So we always focus on simplicity. How do we make it simple? How do we abstract the underlying infrastructure complexity and make it like a click of a button and you get everything. And then the second thing also scalability. How do we scale? How do we have a solution that scales when your data scale and explode across different clouds, or the amount of data? How do you do that? And then the last thing is make it evolvable. We want a solution that evolve naturally with the use cases, with the applications, or that runs on top of that. Because that's the cloud is. Like today you're connecting to a data store in Google Cloud, but then in 3 months and 6 months, you have a customers in Azure or in AWS and they want to connect to. So how do you connect that? If you use the traditional networking, you're stuck. You need another 6 to 9 months to just redesign, the network and then move your data. And that's not acceptable, for our solution. So evolvability is an important aspect. If I describe or summarize the attribute of our product, the simplicity, scalability, and evolvability, but also we saw that in our team as well. So when we tackle a problem or we want to add a new feature, we always say like, make it simple, think simple, don't overcomplicate things. Let's just focus on the most important thing, and also always think about scale. You're putting the foundation, and keep in mind that this is going to scale, and then also keep in mind that this is going to evolve and change. So don't get stuck, writing 1,000 lines of code, because that's what's going to change. So how do we make it evolvable? And how do we make the person is evolvable according to that? I believe these attributes that makes us unique, makes our product unique, and makes our team unique, compared to our competitors in the market.
And along those lines, when talking about your team, whether previously or right now, who are you struggling to find, or who did you struggle to find previously? If you're not struggling to find right now, anyone.
So believe it or not, it's not the technical skills that we struggle to find.
Okay.
So if I'm looking for a skill, yes, I mean there's skills more available on the market, and if they're more available, that is easier to get and cheaper, to get than very specific skill. But that even said, we believe in culture of, again, evolvability. So we're not looking for that unicorn person that knows 100% of the skills needed for the job. That's not what we're looking for. As long as the person has the foundations, plus we see the capability of that person learning fast and being flexible and evolvable, that's all what we need. So if we have a job role, like for example software engineering, and we want that person to know Python and C++ and Kubernetes and Docker, and if that person, that the best person we came across that knows 3 out of these 4, but also shows like a strong signals of being adaptable and learning skills very fast, that's all what we need. So technical skills is not the issue. Always our biggest problem is the culture and culture fit. How do we find a person that believe in the company's vision, also willing to take a risk joining a startup, with a lot of challenges. There is a lot of uncertainties, and that make people stressed. The good thing about the recession that we had recently, everybody realized that, okay, just because I'm in a big company, that doesn't mean my job is secure.
True.
Saw that with Google, Microsoft, all these big company laying off right and left, senior people, very advanced people. So that changed perspective, and people say like, okay, maybe joining a startup is not as bad or risky as, seen with a big company. So that's helped a little bit. But to your question, the biggest struggle we find is basically a good culture fit that one is person willing to join a startup with a lot of the challenges. And challenges doesn't mean like financial risks challenges, like company. It's the challenge of the nature of a startup. Startup is by nature, we change a lot. We're very fast paced. You have to wear different hats. And a lot of people, they don't have the capability to do that. Like, I'll kid you not. We hired like executives from the top tier companies. They struggle to work in a startup. because of that. Not the financial aspect, is the nature, the culture of moving fast, wearing different hats. They struggle with that. So that's the biggest challenge I have, is like, how do I find like a person fit from a culture perspective, on what we need.
That's very interesting to hear.
Maybe that's the answer that you expected, so it's not like the skills, which is I can talk about in a little bit, like if you want details about specific skills, but from our experiences, this is not the biggest issue.
So there's a book that came out about Elon Musk a few months ago by this famous author, William Isaacson, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, it's a big, big book. I'm listening to it. I'm not reading it. So when I work out, and apparently Elon Musk says, I can teach a technical skill. There are abundance, or there are a lot of resources out there that will teach you those skills. It's your chip in your brain or your wiring that I cannot change. Like once it's there, it's there. And so those are the hard skills to come by and to maybe as well develop in people. With that being said, whether previously or even right now, how many candidates do you have to go through until you find that one person who is a cultural fit on average?
Well, it depends on the role. Okay, so the executive level is different than an engineering level. So we're engineering company. Most of us are technical, heavy on the technical side, even the executive side. But like, let's say that I want to hire a VP of marketing, or VP of finance. So my options are limited. I don't have much in the market, like a pool, like an engineer. So that's one aspect. Determine how fast I want to do this. The other aspect is the timing of the hire. Like, for example, if I have like a project coming in and we need to develop specific features or tackle something, and again, it doesn't have to be engineering, it can be even the finance. For example, if we're going through a fundraise or M&A or acquisition process or anything, I need a finance person and I need to find someone very fast, so it's not just the engineering aspect. So the timing is important, and also like the role or the nature of the role. If you want like a specific numbers, we narrow it down, at least from our experience, to 5 to 6 interviews. So we post it online. We gather the information, we collect, and what we try to do is also like divide the tasks among us. So I have one person who is leading the HR aspect. So what that person does is basically they will create a job description with the manager. Like, let's say that we want to hire an engineer, so the HR person talk with the engineering manager. They said, like, okay, what are the skills that you're looking for? The technical skills, we put it together and then we post it. We also post about the culture aspect, but the culture is unified, either you're executive or not. So the HR doesn't need to ask the engineer about that. She will like post the job. And then let's say that we get 50 applicants, for example, and in a period of time, let's say that we want to hire in the next 2 months. So, okay, in a period of time, we got 50 customers. She'll go through them, and then she will highlight like the best top 20. She will like take them to the engineering manager. The engineering manager will go through it and say, okay, here's the top 10 that I think meet the minimum requirement of what we want. So far, we basically, on average, about a thing, like we narrow it down to maybe 4 to 5 interviews max, and then based on these 5, and we try to do them like in a short period of time. So it also gives us like a good comparison. And also, you don't want to interview someone and then wait 2 months before you decide if you're going to make them a job offer or not. It's not a good practice anyway. So we try to put them all together in one period, 4 or 5 candidates. We interview, and then that's it. We make the offer, and we did the same thing. Now I'm thinking about it for the executive level and for the engineering. Now that being said, sometimes like we hire opportunistically as well. What I mean by that is, so for example, my previous head of finance, I know the person personally. Like I worked with him before. So when I had that opening, I didn't waste my time. I just went to him and I was like, hey, I have a position. Would you like to join us? And we did that with some of the early engineers as well. We had some engagement with them. We know them. It's like, hey, we have a position. Do you just want to come in? And these usually like so fast, less like in a couple of days, yes or not, and we just do it. So I hope that answers your question of
It does.
how many, yeah. But again, we're a startup, we're different, but that's what, looking back, what we are being. Actually, saying that, we just made a decision yesterday on hiring, It's an engineer. We're going to make an offer. But now looking back, or now I'm trying to remember, I believe the engineering team went down to 3, if not 4 engineers, interviewed them. And then out of that, they came to a conclusion that 2 they like the best. 1 they like more. So, and we only have position for 1, But we said like, okay, if that person doesn't move forward, we're gonna make the offer to the second person.
Okay, that makes sense, and that's a good number. I was worried, or not worried. I thought it was going to be maybe 50 candidates. I thought that would be a very big number, which means it's you have to sit through a lot of them to really identify the right candidate. And on that note, I want to ask you, because you emphasized on the idea of trying to establish a cultural fit. How do you do that? Because cultural fit could be subjective.
Yes, and that's exactly what we're trying to avoid, is to be subjective. So we actually wrote down questions and Q&A, for ourselves, and we practice that. Like what are the good indication of this person being a good culture fit? And we try to kind of, again, be less subjective as possible. So yeah, so it's hard to tell you like exactly what to do, but we write down, we try to be structured as much as possible. We try to hit different topics, to indicate how this person is a good culture. So for example, things we look for is, where is that the person's background experience come from, so we ask about that, and we look for like, yeah, I work for a team, a small team, and then I grew the team to multiple things, and then tell us about your conflict, like how did you resolve these conflicts, so we get this nuggets, and it's not like points, like they check, like they said it. It's like we try to get this information, like, okay, this person worked in 3 different companies, 3 different sizes, and they got laid off, from the last company. Here's what they went through. Here's how they handle it. Here's the team they worked with, how diverse the team they work with. Another thing also we look for, how do they interact with us and in the interview. And I'll give you an example. One time we had an opening position for an executive level. So that executive level is going to be reporting to me directly. And in that interview, I like that person. He was very good. He has the expertise. He has the background and everything. And then as a next step is, I wanted him to meet with the team, so the team interview. So they can tell me, because it's very important, is I want him to get along with the other executives, And in that meeting, he did something that I did not notice, And I was like, okay, in my mind, I was like, he's the perfect fit candidate. I'll make him an offer. And then in the recap, one of the other female executive, she said, I didn't feel comfortable with him, and I believe he's sexist,
Okay.
And wow. Okay, so what happened? And when she was explaining, and there was like another woman, female, she also noticed that, like, every time she asked a question, he won't look at her, he will give her back and answer the guy, I didn't see it. I was biased because I liked the guy, and maybe because I was a male, I didn't see it, but these are the things like we click on, we pay attention to, like how is it the culture fit, how is it interacting with the people, how they actually interact with the junior level. So we sometimes on purpose we bring the executive level and we put them in a junior level and see how they interact. And people try to mask as much as possible, but I don't know, like in 1 year, I think we interviewed over 150 people, after a while, you start like picking up, and you can tell who's faking it and who's not. And again, there's some false positive signals. We may not be 100%, but that's why it's better to have the team interview, not just you, because we all get together and we all vote, what do we think? And then whoever gives low ranking votes, they explain why, and when you get 3 out of the 5 people voting low, okay, there is something here they're picking up,
And on that note, what was the worst interview you've ever experienced with another candidate or with a potential candidate?
I'm trying to pick one for you.
Because I saw you looking on the side and I'm like, oh, I'm sure Murad has a bunch of them that he's going through right now.
So this one I just mentioned to you was not good, because I felt bad. I felt bad for my coworker that she went through that and she experienced this level of discrimination, so it was not fun. Worst interview, it wasn't for me, actually. It was for the person we interviewed. He almost passed out. He couldn't breathe,
Wow. Okay, wow.
He was so nervous. I was like, okay, I don't think I'm that intimidating, but when I sat with him, he was. So I was like, please don't die, in my office. No, he was. Actually, we end up hiring that person. I think it's a behavioral aspect. The technical people get nervous or they don't know or they try to fake the technical aspect is not a big issue. Because this is the technical skills. If you give them a problem code and they struggle with it, it's fine. But the culture aspect or someone say something inappropriate. Okay, I know one that really stuck with me, and sorry, it's a vulgar word. I'm gonna say it anyway, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, it's okay.
We were selling to data centers, okay, and data centers they have a lot of cabling, to be structures and wired within that data center, okay. So one position we had open for a data center engineer, because our product needs to be installed in a data center. So we needed someone that experienced in data center cabling and putting on the cables and everything. So we brought that person and he was bragging how his cabling structure is very unique. He called it the cable porn.
Okay, wow, interesting.
He was like, that's my cable porn because it's so unique. It's very fulfilling. And I was like, dude, yeah, you could choose another word, for that, so yeah, so that's one stuck with me. We did not hire that person,
Wait, so he said that in an interview?
Yes.
Wow.
When he said that in front of other women, with you, and he'd be like, okay, dude,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So usually, if I have to think about it now, I mean, luckily we didn't go through I was being drastic or dramatic, nothing kind of very bad. It's more like the culture fit. If we find someone who is not treating or show a sign that this person we're not going to be treating other employees with the most dignity and respect, or be difficult to work with, that's a big red flag for us, and we just basically don't move along.
True.
We learned because sometimes we hired such people who showed some signs, and 9 out of 10, they always end up as what we feared them to be.
And do you end up having to let them go? quickly?
Either that or they leave. It becomes like unhealthy relationship, yeah.
Makes sense. And what about the best interview? The best interview you've ever experienced, and why?
My VP of operations and HR, Nicole.
Okay.
I think
Is
that's
she still at the company?
yeah. She's
Okay.
still in the company. And she was employee number 8 or 9, and I think that was like the best interview. I think it was like also like a gut feeling in it, like I knew when I sat with her. So again, it was an executive level, and we just raised a lot of money, and we want to hire people. Like we want to grow from 8 people to 50 in 6 months, So we want to like push it very hard. That was before COVID, when there's a lot of money, and you can spend as much as you can. So I wanted someone that helped me with the HR process, and again, going back to the culture, I struggled to find a person who really understands culture, and I was like interviewing people, and I was like, because HR in itself as a process is not complicated, like it's, there is rules and regulations. You want to make sure like the laws, for the employment and stuff like that, the taxes, it's a process, X, plus Y equals Z, and then you get it done. But the culture is the dynamic one. It's like, okay, how do I quantify? How do I make it objective, not subjective? And I was like interviewing people, and one of them, I remember I asked about culture. I was like, okay, what's your view on the best way of culture? She's like, yeah, we do like yoga classes. I was like, it's not, and then, yeah, like what is the best culture for you? And they were like, yeah, we play ping pong and we play like Frisbee. And, so when I met her, she had like a different view of culture, and it's basically like, it's a gut feeling. I knew immediately. And what made it like also interesting, hire, that at that time, most of my team rejected her.
Okay.
Didn't want to.
Interesting, because maybe she does not want to do the yoga stuff, like to bring that.
It's because the term they use, she was gonna rock the boat.
Uh-huh. And why did they have that feeling?
Because I end up firing that team, later.
Okay.
And let them go, and some of them stayed for a little bit, and some of them like they just left because their culture and their what they think is like what the company should be was totally different than her, And I was also struggling with that. Like I found myself in a situation where I hired multiple folks at the beginning, and I felt like their culture is not like my culture, which is kind of interesting dynamic when you're the CEO and your team is having like a different kind of dynamic than yours. And I start picking up on unhealthy traits, started like developing, and I don't agree with. So when she came in, and I was like, okay, she has the same culture that I envision the company to be built on top, and be about. They picked on that too, and they started saying like, no, she's not, like, she's very arrogant, she's pushing back, and she will like rock the boat, and she will challenge. Like I remember one of the best thing is we interviewed her. She was asking them, not them asking her.
Oh, that's a very good sign, by the way.
Yeah, she was like, okay, so why would I, like, tell me about your company, tell me about, like, and that's what I started like picking up. And I was like, okay, this is a person that I need, because they were gonna challenge us, push us, Yes, I hired that person, and she's still with us since 2019.
Okay, and I'm assuming now Nicole is part of your team that you consult before you hire, because you can see that she can enforce the kind of culture you want at Stateless.
Yes.
Perfect. Very good stories, honestly speaking. I really enjoyed hearing about your experience, and it was very insightful for me. That's all I had, Murad. And again, thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing your experience with us. I hope the listeners would find it as well as useful as I did. Thank you again, Murad.
Well, last thing, Ahmed, I just want to highlight here, because I did get that question a lot. I think a lot of employees, missing on something is when you hire a person, it's a two-way relation. Okay, you got to think of like, okay, what's incentivize that person not only to work for me, but also give me the best, they have, because that's what you want. You don't want just a person with like, okay, 8 to 5. You want them like to be passionate and they love what they do, because that's, you'll feel happy, they will feel happy. You feel like you're accomplishing, you feel like a true team. And a lot of employees, they don't think about that aspect. They only and mainly think about the financial, the benefit aspect. Like, well, that's what they think. Like, okay, if we offer this salary with these bonuses, with these perks, why would anybody say no? And in my experience, I get a lot of people, they don't get motivated by that. Yes, it's good to have money, get paid well, but a lot of them, they want to feel connected, and the way how you make a person connected is, one, to be very transparent, like really transparent. Like people ask me, what's your runway look like? How much cash do you have? And I was like, yeah, this is what we have right now. And if we don't raise money, we're probably going to shut down and we'll lay out. That's the thing. Do you want to join? And they said, yes, I want to join because you're being transparent and honest with me, and I like that. I think that's something I hope you emphasize with other people you speak with, or if you want to talk, with other forums, is culture aspect, transparency, look with the people, how to make them motivated and work with you. And it's not just about financials and perks, you'd be surprised by how many people not get so motivated about that. It's not the main reason for them to join a company.
100%. And in fact, just recently, I sat with someone who got a really good offer, amazing package, and he didn't like it. He felt like he was not satisfied because the work itself was not fulfilling, and that happens. And then at the same time, you have people, at least when I joined my company, the one I work for right now, we were a startup. I left a very secure job at a very secure company, and people kept on warning me about the pitfalls of working for a startup that can go bankrupt. And I felt like, man, I'd rather be live here, like mentally stimulated, loving what I do, and hopefully that turns out to be rewarding in all aspects, than just staying in one place for the financials, whereas I just don't feel anything inside of me, right? Alhamdulillah, I think that this idea is becoming more widespread. Now, obviously, some people, their priorities shift when they grow older for whatever reason. But this point, I'm finding it more common now when I talk to people than I used to a few years ago. And I think it's partly because it's being floated around more often than before.
Yes, it is more common, but you still find most of the companies hiring, they don't emphasize on that. They don't lead with that. Like if they interview like a person, they don't double down on the value of the work or the achievement you're gonna get from the work. The team. Like, hey, this is like a fun environment. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love working here. Look what our product is doing. Look to our mission. They don't emphasize on that. It's always like a second thing. They always lead with, here's your new office. Here's, we're gonna give you all these equipment, the perks and everything. And then, oh, by the way, that this is why we are awesome. And that's the mistake. That's why people are struggling. And I'll tell you what, like, people always ask me, like, have we ever struggled finding a good talent, even if we don't have enough capital? And they get surprised when I tell them, no, we don't. I truly, like, if you look at our background and our history, and people ask me, like, what is the most accomplishment that you had as a company, stateless? And I always say, like, the hire. I felt like hiring was one of our biggest assets. Like, we're very good at hiring. I feel very satisfied with the people we hired. Yes, nobody's perfect, and we had to learn mistakes. But in general, looking back, we made it like a damn good decisions, And again, because we led with culture and value, transparency, and then we try it. We try to be realistic. Okay, I was like, okay, there is competing factor. I can't just pay a very low and expect that person to. Well, I have to pay as less as I can, but I don't lead with that.
And I believe, again, based on your answer previously, Nicole might have played a role in cementing that kind of culture and transparency as well.
And not to take that away from, because I also want to emphasize that I'm lucky with the other executives. Like my co-founder he's very good. Like, and we've been working together for almost 12 years now, because I started my PhD with him, So the culture aspect is very important for me. So I think it's the team that I'm lucky. Nicole is the value mainly was like, how do you objectify that? How do you put a structure about it? How do you ask the right question?
Genuinely, it's so good to hear that what you believe in is what I was trying to achieve with this podcast and this episode as well. Great interview. Thank you, Murad. Thank you so much for your answers. Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoy as well. Thank you, Murad.